हो गया हम लोग करेंगे
कर लेंगे क्या है क्वेश्चन देखें व्हाट इज दैट क्वेश्चन गिव रीजन हां
18th को आप खत्म करेंगे 18th को
व्हाट 18th को 28 and November 1 week that's it
last lecture
November first week में आएगा
अभी आपका 18th को है ना लेक्चर 3 घंटे का
कौन कब
नहीं,
कौन सा
नहीं,
day?
नहीं है ना बायो का नहीं है
बायो का नहीं जरूरी है ना 3 घंटे का We will have Diwali holidays. Next Tuesday will be Diwali holiday.
only
3 days. Only 3 days. You are not in the kindergarten, no. 15 days छुट्टी चाहिए. Then also now you all are lucky. You are getting 4 days.
16 तारीख से 26 तारीख तक
Earlier we used to give only 1 day Diwali holiday. सिर्फ लक्ष्मी पूजन 1 day.
मिल गया हम लोग को
और रिजल्ट्स भी इसलिए अच्छा आता था. The more we are becoming flexible, student friendly, results भी खराब आ रहे हैं. हाँ क्या दिवाली हॉलीडेज 4 दिन मिला एकदम चुपचाप रहो कोई एक भी कंप्लेन नहीं करोगे
एक कंप्लीट किया तो खत्म ये हो गई
कोई कंप्लेन नहीं स्कूल में मिल रहा है ना आके यहाँ पे 6 घंटे पढ़ो 10th स्टैंडर्ड के स्टूडेंट्स हो हाउ मेनी मंथ्स फॉर योर बोर्ड्स 3 मंथ्स नो क्या अभी तक सोचा नहीं उसके बारे में सोचा है ना Okay, बोलो ना. What is that last question? If you are able to answer, then we move on to the next chapter.
Co-ordination lining becomes thick and spongy after.
हाँ, ये लिखेंगे. लिखो fast. The same thing that I have explained you. We'll write that, then we move on. Uterine lining becomes thick and spongy after the release of female gamete after ovulation. What is the answer that you should write? लिखो. In the female body, take the question number, which one it is. In the female body, the uterine lining. In the female body, uterine lining becomes thick and spongy. Uterine lining becomes thick and spongy after ovulation. Full stop. Full stop. Each time when the ovum is in the oviduct, each time when the ovum is in the oviduct, the uterine wall becomes thicker by increasing. Uterine wall becomes thicker by increasing the layers of cells and blood vessels. Increasing layers of cells and blood vessels. Increasing layers of cells and blood vessels. Full stop. अच्छा, comma देके continue करो. Comma and then continue. This is because the female body prepares for post-fertilization, attachment of the embryo to the wall of uterus. Wall of uterus and uterine wall is the same thing. To the wall of uterus, so that it obtains nourishment. Wall of uterus, so that it obtains nourishment from The maternal blood obtains nourishment from maternal blood to carry out cell division and growth. To carry out cell division and growth. So 2 marks, 3 marks based on what is the mark of the question. Now it is a give reason question. In CBSE, give reason questions are for 1.5 mark also. So give reason for 3 marks, 1.5, 1.5. So you'll have to write distinct points there. The rest of the questions that I gave you, try as homework. Go through the questions, find out whether you know the answers of those questions. 2 of them are diagram-based questions, but text me only. The last chapter that we study would be heredity. Heredity, evolution is not there, so only heredity we are studying. What is heredity? What is inheritance? When we are talking about the concept of heredity, the first thing that we understand is a field of science that is known as genetics. What is genetics? Write down the definition. What is genetics? Start from a fresh page, write down the definition. Genetics and inheritance, you are supposed to know the definition. Genetics, the branch of science that deals with, branch of science that deals with the study of science. Branch of science. Science. You are studying science. Look at her. Branch of science. क्या spelling क्या लिखा? SIG. कैसे हो सकता है SIG? Branch of science that deals with the study of genes. Study of genes and genetic characteristics. Study of genes and genetic characteristics. Next is inheritance. Inheritance, heredity or inheritance, definition same hai almost. Inheritance, the passage of the passage of characteristics from parents to offsprings. Passage of characteristics or transmission is also another word that we use. Passage of characteristics, passage के जगह transmission भी लिख सकते हो. Transmission of characteristics from parents to offsprings. Parents to offsprings. Offsprings क्या है? Next generation organisms. Parents to offsprings by the way of chromosomes. Parents to offsprings by the way of chromosomes. Parents to offsprings by the way of chromosomes. So ये दो definition पहले याद रखना है. Now let us start the concept from chromosomes. So now I think of a cell. This is a cell. It has got the nucleus. What is there inside the nucleus? The thread-like structures. These thread-like structures, if I understand that these thread-like structures are in this form, the thread-like structures are in this form. When the thread-like structures are in this form, this is a newly formed cell. What are these thread-like structures known as? These thread-like structures are known as the chromatin threads. Try to understand this chapter. हाँ, previous chapter जो है वो याद करके memorize करके भी लिख लोगे answer. ये this chapter you will not be able to memorize and write anything. समझने की कोशिश करो. So now that I talk about a cell, if the cell has this type of coiled, long, thin, thread-like structures. What are these? Chromatin threads. If it is chromatin threads, then the cell is a newly formed cell. So now that this cell is in the process of maturation, it is getting mature. The cell is now in the process of maturation, and if the cell is in the process of maturation, what should happen to this cell? I will say that yes, the chromosomes are becoming distinct. ये जो fine thread-like structures है, they have undergone extensive coiling, and we are able to see them distinct in the under the microscope. मतलब this entire long thin thread-like structure जो था, this has undergone extensive coiling like this, and as it has undergone extensive coiling to draw the structure a little bit nice, this is how a chromosome is. मुझे दिखाई दे हाँ चल
देखो कुछ किया भी नहीं है तो क्यों रिपोर्ट का मूल ला रहे हैं मैम कुछ नहीं किया
लास्ट में जाओ इस चैप्टर इफ यू वांट टू आंसर दो क्वेश्चन अगर आंसर करना है तो सुनना पड़ेगा बाकी लोगों को भी सुनने देना है Now, when we are talking about this fine, long, extensively thin, coiled, thread-like structures, chromatic, when they are distinct and we can see them under the microscope, then we understand that this is a mature cell ready for the process of division. Then what are these structures known as? Then these structures are known as chromosomes. In the 9th standard, you had studied what is a chromosome? A chromosome is a condensed thread-like structure. They are the carriers of heredity. We had studied this. So now the basic concept that we had studied for nuclear cell organelle in the 9th standard. What are chromosomes? What to write? Chromosomes are extensively coiled thread-like structures. Chromosomes are extensively coiled chromatin threads. They are the carriers of heredity. We will learn why are they known as carriers of heredity. First of all, we will see what is the difference between chromatin threads and chromosomes. You get questions? Name the carriers of heredity. What do they contain? Name the carriers of heredity. Carriers of heredity is a basic question in your paper. What are carriers of heredity known as? Chromosomes. What are carriers of heredity known as? What do they contain? What do they contain? Write down. Chromosomes are the carriers of heredity. Chromosomes are the carriers of heredity which are extensively coiled chromatin threads. Extensively coiled chromatin threads. Full stop. Extensively coiled chromatin threads. Full stop. Next paragraph. They contain a chemical substance. What is that chemical substance in the chromosome? What is that chemical substance inside the chromosome? DNA. DNA. Write down. They consist of, what I said? They contain
a chemical
substance known as DNA, all capital. Consist of a chemical substance known as DNA.
Called DNA.
All DNA.
Known as की जगह पे called DNA.
Known as DNA within bracket. The full form of DNA. What is the full form of DNA? Deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Full stop. RNA is temporarily present. In our cells, RNA is temporarily present. If I talk about the viruses and all, then in their cells or in their particles, RNA is permanent. For us, only at a particular period. So our chromosomes are majorly made up of the DNA. Just one more sentence to write. Segments of the DNA known as genes. Segments of the DNA known as, continue. Segments of the DNA known as genes contain hereditary information known as genes, G-E-N-E-S. Genes, G-E-N-E-S, genes contain hereditary information. Contain hereditary information. H-E-R-E-D-I. Check the spelling. H-E-R-I nahi hai, though the pronunciation is almost hereditary. Spelling is H-E-R-E. Okay. Now, name the chemical component of chromosome. क्या लिखना है? DNA. Write down the full form of DNA. Deoxyribose. These are patent questions in your paper. Write down the full form of DNA. What are genes? So what will you write? What are genes? Segments of the DNA that contain hereditary characteristics are genes. So we will learn this now. So this particular chromosome, we now try to understand that what does this chromosome contain? Just now we had written down that this particular chromosome consists of a chemical component, a big complex chemical component. And what is that chemical component known as DNA? So trying to understand that where is this DNA present, if I draw something like this, the thread-like structures, I want to magnify a part of this chromosome and try to find out how the genes and how the chromosomes. So probably the DNA is something like this, a helical, thread-like or a ladder-like structure, something like this. A helical, thread-like or a ladder-like structure. So this is a complex macromolecule that we are talking about, the entire DNA molecule. But this entire DNA molecule is actually consisting of two thread-like structures, which are known as the two strands of the DNA. Which are known as the two strands. Meaning, what will you call this thread as? This is known as a strand, a thread. So this DNA molecule, what is it comprised of? A basic idea to remember, basic feature. The DNA molecule consists of two strands, two threads. But these two threads remain connected by a typical type of a bond. Which bond? Hydrogen bonds. The bond that connects the two DNA is the hydrogen bond. Now, how is the hydrogen bond formed? Are there any units there? Yes, there are some units. There are some repeating units all throughout this structure. There are some repeating units all throughout this structure. And the hydrogen bonds are actually connecting these two units. Now, the details of the units we are not studying right now, but we are just to know that all throughout the DNA, now that I talk about all throughout the DNA, these type of units are all over. Something like if I talk about this type of a ribbon-like structure known as the DNA, just now I mentioned, there will be hundreds and hundreds of these units. There are names to all these units. So these are the repeating units. These are the repeating units. Why are they known as repeating? Because they are all over the DNA. Talking about a protein chain, something like this, if I compare. Talking about a protein chain, if I talk about a protein, something the same like our hair, the protein, that's a long chain protein made up of what? Some amino acids put together. Some amino acids put together. I talk about the carbohydrate present in our body cells, made up of glucose put together. So whenever I talk about any complex molecule, it always has to be made up of some units. So also the DNA is also made up of some units. So what did I say? I said inside the nucleus there are hereditary units. What are those hereditary units known as chromosomes? Chromosomes are distinctly visible only in a mature cell. In a young cell, chromosomes are not visible. What is a chromosome made up of? It is made up of 2 strands of DNA, which is wavy and helical, almost like a ladder. And then the entire structure that we are talking about, which is in the form of a ladder, very, very long. And this DNA is made up of some repeating units. Now talking about a small section, maybe now I talk about this part. Maybe now I talk about this part. Maybe now I talk about this part. What are these sections known as? This section is known as a gene. What did we write? The sections of the DNA are known as genes. Then in our chromosomes, if I talk about one chromosome in our body, there are hundreds of such genes. Every single gene regulating a specific character that we show. For example, the texture of the hair because of a gene, the height because of a gene, the color of the skin because of a gene, the color of the eye because of a gene, the texture of the hair because of the gene. Any particular character you name, the information is here in our DNA. The information is here in our DNA. From where did we get this DNA? From where did we get this chromosome? From our parents. Now, in the previous chapter, you had already studied gametes. You had already studied gametes. Gametes, male gametes, how many chromosomes? 23. Female gametes, how many chromosomes? 23. And now that the male and the female gamete,
Ma'am, evolution of new creatures, variations की वजह से होता है क्या?
Variation मतलब छोटे-छोटे changes in this single DNA.
तो वही मतलब F1 generation में थोड़ा हुआ, F2 में थोड़ा.
DNA में थोड़े-थोड़े changes over generation जब accumulate होगा, a time comes.
After every 100 generations.
Not necessarily हमेशा 100 ही हो. कभी 100 भी हो सकता है, कभी more than 100 also. Sometimes it's thousands of generations also. So जरूरी नहीं, there's no standard number, but unless and until the changes are that big enough, where the
थोड़ा करके भी बहुत सारा changes हो जाए.
accumulate होता है. So now that I talk about what are genes, what is the definition you write? Segments of DNA that carry hereditary characteristics from parents to offspring. So that is a standard definition we have written in the answer. Now, I talk about that if I now look into, say suppose, I now talk about a ovum. I now talk about a ovum. For example, this ovum has 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 chromosomes. For example, this ovum has 4 chromosomes. Fusion, this sperm also has 4 chromosomes. I'm just drawing them straight away, not drawing the nucleus, try understanding. The ovum has 4 chromosomes, sperm has 4 chromosomes. The process of fertilization happens, results in the formation of a zygote. What will happen? The chromosome 1 and the chromosome 1 will form a pair. One chromosome form a pair. One chromosome, the other form a pair. 1 and 1 form a pair. 1 and 1 form a pair. Now, how many chromosomes we have? 23. For ease of drawing, मैंने खाली 4 ही draw किया. 23. So 23 मतलब there are number. They are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 4th chromosome from here, the 4th and the 4th from here has gone together forming the 4th pair in the zygote. I समझ में what I am telling you? In the zygote, when I say the 4th chromosome, in the zygote, when I say the 4th chromosome, matlab 4th chromosome from the sperm, 4th chromosome from the ovum come together and form a pair. When I say the 9th chromosome from the sperm, 9th from the ovum form a pair. So इस तरह से actually in our zygote there are how many pairs? Like this there are 23 pairs. If I have to draw many of them, there are 23 pairs like this. How many pairs are there? 23 in a zygote. So the specificity is 9th forma pair, 6th forma pair, 12th forma pair. ऐसे होता है. Got that? So in the zygote, now that I talk about human, how many pairs of chromosomes? 23. Clear hai? Total 46. 23 pairs hai, total 46. Clear? So if this zygote, now you recollect and tell me, did we study sex discrimination earlier? नहीं. नहीं. Reproduction में पढ़ा था थोड़ा सा? अच्छा, ठीक है. So in this chapter again we are going to study. So if, okay, first of all understand this part only. Chromosome क्या है? Genes क्या है? DNA क्या है? And what is this concept of pairing of chromosomes? In the cell of the testes, do you remember when I had explained you the gametes? I always say the cells of the testes have 46 chromosomes. The cells of the ovary have 46 chromosomes, cells of the muscle, bone, etc. हर एक cell, हर एक body cell 46 chromosomes. तो मतलब हर एक chromosome is always paired. Name 2 types of cells in the human body which contain unpaired chromosome. क्या लिखना है आंसर? 2 cells of the human body which has unpaired chromosome. मतलब ऐसे ovum and sperm. Name 2 cells of the human body which has paired chromosome. इसके तो बहुत options हैं. Muscle cell, bone cell, cells of the skin. Apart from the gametes, all other cells have paired chromosomes. Am I clear with this? Now we will go with this concept, paired chromosome. So that means I come to this concept that हमारे body cells में chromosomes are all paired. सिर्फ gametes में ही single chromosomes होता है. Only in gametes chromosomes are single, unpaired. But apart from the 2 types of gametes in the male and the female body, in any other cell of the human body you talk about, bone है, muscle है, skin है, any other cell you think of, हर एक में chromosomes are paired. Now we look into this concept of the paired condition of the chromosome. Let us go to this. To understand the paired condition, let us now take one pair of a chromosome. For example, maybe I am talking about one single pair of a chromosome. I talk about one single pair of a chromosome. Maybe this is the 6th pair, maybe this is the 9th pair, anything. So now, this entire pair, this chromosome also will have DNA. This chromosome also will have DNA. What did I tell you just now? If this is a pair of chromosome, and I am saying this is the 4th pair of chromosome in the human, ये 4th chromosome from the sperm and 4th chromosome from the ovum have come together. Pairing ऐसे होगा कभी? ये कभी नहीं होगा. This is a wrong pairing. अगर कभी होगा भी, then the child will suffer from major chromosomal abnormalities. So normally during the process of fertilization, pairing कैसे होगा? 4th and 4th, 9th and 9th, 12th and 12th, यही concept है हमेशा. So now I talk about the 4th pair of chromosomes. So definitely this 4th and this 4th, why did they come together? क्योंकि sequence of genes common है. Why did the 4th and the 4th come together? क्योंकि sequence of genes common है. That's why, no? Why did the 9th and the 9th come together? Sequence of genes common है. This male and the female are of the same species. Even though they are of 2 different gender, but species same है. So sequence of genes in the 9th and the 9th same. 12th and 12th सेम होगा, 13th and 13th सेम होगा, 7th and 13th में सेम होगा, 7th and 13th में gene sequence सेम होगा? No. Will they ever pair normally? No. If it pairs, it's an error. So now, in this pair of chromosomes, now I want to study genes and their characteristics. So now, this particular segment of chromosome, now, in this entire DNA, if I have to mark the genes, how do we mark a gene? What does this gene? No. What does this gene regulate? Let us learn this first. What is a gene regulating? What is or what are the variable forms of a gene? Now talking about what will a gene regulate? If it is a gene, this gene will always regulate certain characteristics. If it is a gene, it will always regulate some characteristics. For example, skin color, height, texture of the hair, eye color, etc. But now, when I talk about the characters, let me pick up any one example. Let me pick up one simple example of a character. Eye color, say suppose. Are you aware what are the common eye colors in human population? सबसे common क्या है? Brown. उसके बाद black. उसके बाद blue, green, hazel, red. These are all mutant eye colors. These are all defective eye colors. Normal eye colors क्या है? Most commonly brown. Sitting here, if you all check our eye colors, 10-12 में से 5-6 जन का brown होगा. Brown. Mine also brown. And then if you check properly, 10-12 में से 5-6 का ब्राउन निकलेगा या फिर ब्लू किसी का भी नहीं है. So it will be brown and lesser of black. ठीक है? So when we are talking about the eye color, so try understanding. A gene regulates what? Characters. But any character, now that I have picked up a very simple example, eye color, which you can relate with. Good morning. Now, eye color है. But if I would have picked up skin color, उसके भी बहुत variations है. Dark or very dark, wheatish, then slightly wheatish, fair, very fair, बहुत है. Texture of the hair, extremely curly. There are specific names also. Extremely curly. Then wavy, densely wavy, medium wavy, straight. So there are so many. Genes regulate characters. तो characters तो human population में एक तरह का नहीं होता है. I pick up any example. Eye color लिया तो भी 3 types of common eye colors है. Green is not a normal eye color. I just now said. So characters, if the characters are in different forms, what do you think?
मैम मेरी नेचुरल रहता है
बहुत लोगों को.
मेरे एक फ्रेंड है उसके
एक ही फ्रेंड है ना.
और उसको भी दोनों को पापा को भी.
हाँ तो जेनेटिक है. But if you take a survey of 50 individuals, 50 में से hardly one will have the gene for that green color. That is a rare eye.
उसके दादाजी का उसके पापा का वैसे सबका ही green है.
That is a line of inheritance. वो अलग है. But if you talk about a population, green is very rare and it is a defective eye color first of all. Blue is a normal eye color. Maximum, moderate, and this also is rare. Now I said, why are we studying this? To understand any character you talk about, character is present in variable forms. So what are these variable forms of the character known as? The variable forms of the character are known as traits. What are the variable forms of a character known as? Variable forms of a character are known as traits. वो सारे mutant है. Apart from these 3, सारे जो human eye colors है, these are rare and this is because of some changes in the DNA. वो normal inheritance से नहीं है. That's why All these 7-8 types of eye colors, these are all considered as defective या तो mutant बोला जाता है.
नॉर्मल कौन सा है?
Mutant मतलब defect in the gene होने के बाद, change in the gene होने के बाद.
चेंज डिफेक्ट टाइम है उसके जीन्स की वजह से जो ऑफस्प्रिंग से उसको भी आएगा.
I'll explain it. वो कैसे होता है. We'll come
वो
to that.
डिफेक्ट होगा कि वो भी नेचुरली.
Now that the zygote is getting formed, DNA, remember in the chapter reproduction, the first part we had studied, errors in DNA copying results in variation. याद है that concept? The first part of reproduction was DNA duplication we studied and errors in DNA duplication. Do you remember that concept? Errors in DNA duplication that results in variation. Variation क्या था? Changes in an offspring different from the parent. Did you ever realize you have certain characteristics that your parents doesn't have? Realize क्या कभी?
They are transferred from the old generations, right?
Old generation वो भी है, but just think of your just previous generation. Are you identical in all your characteristics to your mother and father? No, there are some 2 to 3% characteristics which your mother also doesn't have, father also doesn't have. तो वो कहाँ से आया? Variation. हाँ?
The older generation.
That is because of changes in the DNA जो हुआ था during fertilization. That is what I explained you. Variation. So that same concept यहाँ पे apply होता है. So now, when I talk about, let us come to this first. Let us understand this. Then again, we'll go to that other concept. Gene control characters, but characters are in different forms. What are the different forms of characters known as traits? Try understanding. I'll ask you examples. तो अगर characters के different forms है, तो genes के भी तो different forms होने चाहिए. One type of a gene, how can it regulate the brown also, black also, blue also? नहीं हो सकता. So this gene also has got different forms. So ये different forms of genes को क्या बोलते हैं? Alleles. What are alleles? Alternate forms of a gene. What are traits? Alternate forms of a character. We'll write this answer. Define alleles and traits. This you should know very nice.
Differentiate.
Define लिख सकते हो या differentiate. Define ही लिखो. Define alleles and traits. Try understanding. Define alleles and traits. What are alleles? Alternative form. Alternative form of a gene. Alternative form of a gene that regulate. Alternative form of a gene that regulate different traits of the same character. That regulate different traits of the same character. Next paragraph. Traits are alternative forms of characteristics. Traits are alternative forms of characteristics controlled by different alleles. Okay, now if you have understood what I explained about the concept of traits, I said traits in human population, hair color, so many types. Hair texture, so many types. Skin color, so many types. Height, so many variable types. Can you then tell me one character and its traits in plants? Take example.
Wrinkled and round fruits.
Seed.
Seed.
Okay.
So
character क्या है? I will talk about the shape of a seed as a character. तो shape हर एक seed में same नहीं होता, कभी round होता है, कभी wrinkled होता है. So that round and wrinkled will be considered as types of the character, मतलब traits. Tell me in terms of the flower color.
Yellow, blue,
Flower color is a character. Common flower colors क्या है? Red,
Orange,
orange,
yellow,
pink, yellow. तो ये जो 4 तरह के फ्लावर कलर्स है इसको क्या बोलेंगे? नहीं, हाँ, different types of a character उसको हमेशा बोलेंगे traits. So if in a plant the flowers are normally of these 4 colors, so the gene which is regulating the flower color also in different forms. So that variable form of the gene which is regulating the yellow and the red and the orange and the pink, उसको क्या बोलेंगे? Alleles. Till here is this understood? Alleles, what are alleles? The different forms of a gene. One gene, मतलब a small region of the DNA. But this region of the DNA, when I talk about the pair of chromosome, उसका chemical composition same नहीं रहता है. Okay, what is the simplest way of writing a pair of chromosomes? Let me just think of some 2-3 individuals. I may talk about a pair of chromosomes something like this. Pair of chromosome in simple always are denoted like this, a pair of sticks. Okay? And I said that this is a particular gene. This is a particular gene which is regulating what? Which is regulating a particular character, that is the eye color. So now I want to study in 4-5 individuals. ये जो gene है, allele है, how are they generally arranged in all our chromosomes? I talk about one pair of chromosome. This is one chromosome. This is the other chromosome. Now I want to write down the gene here, the gene here. The gene here, the gene here. Here मतलब I am assuming यहाँ पे जो DNA है, DNA के जो gene है, something like that. Are you able to understand? I am talking about अगर अंदर का DNA सोचा जाए, I am understanding that अंदर जो DNA है, there I am talking about one gene. So there I am talking about one gene, but in this pair, the genes are not in the same form. In this first chromosome, the gene is like this. In the other chromosome, the gene is like this. Why these letters? Because alleles are always designated as letters. Alleles are always designated as letters or numbers. Understand this? Otherwise, understanding those 3 laws will be difficult. Samjho. This is the basic concept. अगर ये 8 pair of words that I'm going to teach, अगर ये समझ में आया, then the rest part very easy. Now I'm saying a pair of chromosome, maybe for person A, pair of chromosome for person 1, जिसमें I get to see that जो gene जो arranged है for the eye color, एक में B है, दूसरे में small b है. Is it the same for the second person? No. In the second person, I get to see यहाँ पे B है तो यहाँ पे भी B है.
हम दोनों dominant है.
हाँ, correct. तो third individual में I want to study and then I get to see that यहाँ पे अगर ये है तो यहाँ पे ये है.
मैम ये dominant है, ये recessive.
Okay. So now let us try understanding what are these terms. And if this is the arrangement of the alleles, are the genes in both the chromosomes same?
No.
No. And that is generally in every pair of chromosome. Genes दोनों chromosome में same नहीं होता है mostly.
मैम transfer वो वाला आएगा ना, dominant वाला.
This will express. Okay, let us check. Now, if in one person I understand that the arrangement of the alleles, what are alleles? Different forms of a gene, which is designated by letters. So letters से हमने designate किया, and what is found is the eye color of this person is brown. The eye color of this person is brown. What about this one, individual 2? It is found that the eye color of this person is also brown. What about this? The eye color of this individual is black. So blue generally rare है. Under what condition will an individual have the blue eye color? Now, if I talk about possible है that in certain individual, maybe the fourth individual, the alleles are like this, and then the color is blue. First thing to understand, in most of the pairs of chromosome that I have, you have an individual, all of you. The pair of chromosome, when we study, gene pair, जब भी हम पढ़ेंगे, the gene pair will generally not have the same type of alleles. इसको क्या बोलेंगे? These are alleles, no, of the same gene. So एक particular gene के 3 types of alleles. But ये जो 3 types of alleles मतलब nothing but a chemical composition. DNA is nothing but a chemical composition. जब this allele and this allele is together, which allele is expressing? This is expressing. So this allele is known to be a dominant allele. When this allele and this allele same type of alleles there, then definitely यही express होगा. When this allele and this allele same type of allele are there, then it is expressing. But when this is there with this one, is this expressing?
No.
No, this is expressing. So abhi we will say that this is dominant and this is recessive. We'll complete with this today. Wait. Then what is the dominant allele? An allele which expresses. What is a recessive allele? An allele which does not express even though it is present in the chromosome. It does not express. Which is the dominant allele? यहाँ पे दोनों ही same है. Which is the dominant allele? ये अभी. Which is the dominant allele? यहाँ पे same है. So we'll just complete with this word. If the alleles are same, what is this condition known as? This is known as a homozygous condition. Wherever, whatever combination, if the alleles are different, this is known as heterozygous combination of alleles. So I have just discussed about 2 pair of words, dominant and recessive क्या है? Homozygous and heterozygous क्या है? We'll again continue with this next class.
नहीं